Hello and welcome back to the top 85 games for the BBC Micro Video Countdown. In at number 66, it's a card game, it's Cribbage. Now, this particular edition was released by Superior Software um, back in 1983. And yes, you can see a copy of the cover and the box there and the cassette. So Cribbage is a very old card game actually. It dates back to the early 17th century. Interestingly enough, it was created by a poet, Sir John Suckling, who you can see there. He derived it from a much older card game called Noddy, which doesn't really exist anymore, but Cribbage has been going pretty much ever since it was invented back in the early 17th century. And it's essentially a card game that revolves around beating your opponent to a score of either 61 or 121 points. Cribbage is traditionally played with a scoring board, which you can see in the picture there. And yeah, this version from Superior Software is a fairly faithful adaptation of the card game. So we're going to have a look at Cribbage. All right, here we are then. So Superior Software presents Cribbage. Now, I appreciate that not everybody watching this video will necessarily be familiar with the game of cribbage, so what I'm going to try and do is explain the rules as we go along, rather than reading you out this page of rules here. In fact, this doesn't really explain the game, it just shows you how to interact with the game on the Beeb. So here we are, this is our cribbage playing table. So this is a two-person game of cribbage, me against the computer. The game doesn't give you any more flexibility than that. It is possible to play cribbage against, I think, 1, 2, or 3 opponents. Basically, the game revolves around the number 15, so the aim is to score as many 15s as you can in your hand, and on top of that, there are some other familiar scoring techniques, including 2 of a kind, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, and runs either within the same suit or across multiple suits. And I think the only other thing to mention is that ace is 1 in the game of cribbage, so ace is low. And yeah, the other playing cards with faces, jacks, queens, and kings, are all counted as 10. So that's how you score. You can see our scoring board on the right hand side, and on top of that you have both your hand, and then if you're the dealer you also get an extra hand, which is made up of discarded cards from the players, plus occasionally some cards that have been dealt in at the start. Now, one deviation that this edition from Superior Software makes is it actually puts two cards into the box and only requires you to discard 1 card. Actually, if you play a 2-player game of cribbage, the idea is that you get dealt 6 cards and you both discard 2 to make up what is called the box, which is that additional hand, which on this round is going to belong to the computer. So if we take a look at my hand here, you can see I've got an ace, a 7, 2 jacks, and a queen. So the 2 jacks and a queen are potentially interesting, because what happens after we discard is 1 card will be drawn from the deck, and that card is effectively counted as a card in both hands and also the box hand, so it's like an extra free card. So choosing which cards to discard is basically premised around a game of risk, whether or not the card that turns up is going to help your hand or not. So I might decide that it is worth keeping both the 2 jacks and the queen, because there might be a 10 that turns up, and that would give me 10 jack queen, 10 jack queen, plus the pair of jacks. I might hope to keep all 3 of the 10s and hope for a 5 to turn up, because that'll give me lots of 15s. Or a 4 could turn up with that ace, and that would also give me some extra 15s as well. So I think on balance I'm going to throw away my 7 of hearts, and now we'll get to see what the extra card is. A 10. See, now that is pretty special. So I've got a fairly decent hand on the basis of that. Okay, so the next step in the game before we score our hands is we both play a race to 31. So first who gets to 31 gets 2 points, but along the way, if we can make scores with the cards we play, we also get to count those on the scoring board. So for example, if I were to put a 10 down with my jack of diamonds, if the computer were to put a 5 down, he would get 2 points for that, because it counts as 15. And you get 2 points for every scoring category in cribbage. He's having a think about it. And okay, he's played a 3, so that doesn't get him anything. So that's just 13. So I'm going to go with my Queen of Diamonds. That goes up to 23. Still no points at this stage. Okay, he's brought it to 24. Now I can play my Ace of Clubs and get a pair for that, because that goes with his Ace of Hearts that he's just played. So that gives me 2 points. And now he can't go, and in fact neither can I, because my 10 would take us to 35, and that's illegal. So I can say N, which is in cribbage, you refer to that as knocking. That means that you can't play. Okay, so now we'll try again, because we both still have cards remaining. Okay, so he's gone with a queen. I'm going to go with a jack of spades. And there you go, he gets 3 points, 10 jack queen, and he gets an extra one because he was the last to play. So you get 2 points if you reach 31, but you also get 1 point if you're the last person to play a card in that round. Okay, now because this is a computerized game of cribbage, obviously it does all the scoring for you, but just for your interest, on this round I will explain how the scoring has worked. So I've got 9 points, and that's because I get 2 for my pair of jacks, and then I get 3 for a 10 jack of diamonds queen run, and then another 3 for a 10 jack of spades queen, so that's 6 for the runs, 2 for the pair, which gives me 8. And then there's a rather curious additional point that you get in cribbage if you happen to have a jack of the same suit as the card which is turned up. So that 10 of spades, I've got the jack of spades. You get something which is called 1 for his knob, which is a rather colloquial expression. So yes, in total I get 9. Now looking at the computer's hand, he hasn't done so well. So in fact, he's only got 2 points, which even I'm struggling to see where he got those 2 points from. Ah, yes, of course. So he's got his 10 of hearts in his hand and the 10 of spades turned up, so he gets a pair of 10s there. But actually, until that 10 showed up, he had nothing. And then in the box, again, not a great story for him there either. He's only got 2 points. In this case, it's because 7 and 8 add up to 15, so that gives him 2 points for the 15. So that was the first round, and you can see our scores have been pegged on the board. So I'm ahead at the moment. The back peg, it shows you where you were, so that was prior to my 9 points being pegged, and then the front peg shows you what your actual score is. And you can see his score is slightly behind mine. Now this edition from Superior Software only goes up to 61, so it's a shorter game of cribbage, and rather than the 121 point score. You can use the same scoring board actually if you were playing this for real, with a real scoring board. You just go around the board twice rather than the once. So it works as a lap, if you couldn't see that. So I'm going up the outside track. When I get to the top of that, I'll then come down the inside track, and when I reach the dot at the bottom, that's the end for me. And likewise, the computer is going up the outside track and going back down the inside track. Okay, so we've got a fresh hand here. I've got a pair of 9s, a 7, and a king of diamonds. I might hope to get an 8 there to create some runs. Alternatively, that 2 of clubs might help me to form some 15s if I keep hold of that. So on balance, I think I'm going to ditch my king of diamonds, and we'll see what turns up. Okay, 6 of spades. That is pretty decent, actually. So I get, with my 2 9s, that gives me some 15s, and actually the 6 with the 2 and 7 also gives me a 15, so not bad. Didn't quite manage to make any runs, though. Okay, so he's played a 4. I'm going to go with my 9 of spades. That takes us to 13. Oh, just having to think about it. If he did play a 2 to make 15, of course I could get a pair with that. Ah, unfortunately not. Okay, so yes, no, that doesn't quite work. So I started, he started with the 4, but I broke that with the 9. So if I were to put the 2 down, I don't get a run for it. So I think what I'll do is just go with the old 9 of diamonds. Ah, and that's pushed him out. So I can only go with my 2 of clubs, which only gives me 1 point, sadly, because I didn't quite get to 31 there. Nope, I can't play any further, so I'm going to knock. All right, computer's thinking again. 8 of clubs. Okay, all good. I can actually get a 15 with that. There we are, 15 for 2 points for me. And he gets 1 for finishing. All right, so he got 2 in his hand. I think he's got, what's he got that for? 6, 3 and 4 is 3, 4, and 8 is 15 too. Yes, and then I get 8 for mine. Oh, and I've got 9 in the box. That's pretty decent. Look at that. That was a good decision to throw the King of Diamonds into the box there, because I got two sets of runs and a pair for that, and one for his knob actually. Looking at it, it was actually 1 point better than my own hand, where that 6 matched with the 9 twice to get 2 15s for 4. Pair of 9s is 6, and actually 7. 6, 7, and 2 also makes another 15 for 8. There we are. Now, obviously, the benefit of playing this on the computer, of course, is you don't need to have somebody like me that can score a hand. You can just play your hand and let the computer add it up for you, which actually reduces the, first of all, the risk of missing some points, but also, secondly, it means that you don't have to think about it yourself. It does also mean that you can't play the Muggins rule in Cribbage. So actually, if you decide up front at the start that you want to play Muggins rule, what it means is that if your opponent misses some points, whether whether that's during the race to 31 or when they score their own hand, if they miss any points and you spot them after they've pegged their score, you can say, Muggins, you forgot, say, that pair over there, and you can claim those points for yourself. Now, obviously, on the computer edition on the Beeb, you can't do that, but we can't have everything. Okay, so let's get rid of my 7 of clubs, and we'll keep the 5 and the 2 queens. Okay, 9 doesn't really help us, so not to worry. Play our queen of clubs here. So I have to say I'm doing pretty well at the moment. In the first few practice runs that I tried, I actually didn't do very well at all. Okay, so he's played a 5, so I can play another 5 for 20. That gives me a pair. He's thinking about it now. 30. No, I can't. I haven't got an ace, so I'm out. Okay. What have we got here? All right, so we're starting again, so I'm going to go with my Queen of Hearts. He's thinking 9. Right, well, not going to get anything for that, so 21. Ugh, yeah. So 21 is a score that you never want to get in the race to 31, because there are more 10s in the pack than any other card in a game of cribbage. So obviously, if you get 21, or if you make 21 in that race to 31, it's highly likely that your opponent will get to 31 on their turn. Okay, so another round, and we've got some scores here. So let's look at mine. I got 2 queens, that's for 2, and then 15, 2, 15, 4. That makes it 6 in total. 9 didn't do anything for me. The computer on his own hand, he got 15, 2, 15, 4 with the jack and the king and the 5, and that's 1 for his knob is 5 on top of that, and then a pair of 9s makes 7. And in his box, oh yeah, the 2 6s with the 9, that gives 15, 2, 15, 4, and a pair of 6s is 6. There we are. So yeah, I think overall it's a really nice edition of Cribbage. Actually, it's no nonsense. It's fairly straightforward. If you know the card game, obviously it's it's a good one to play. If you're not obviously a cribbage fan, or you don't know the rules of cribbage even, it's not necessarily the best game for you, because obviously it doesn't explain how to play it, doesn't give you any kind of tutorials or anything like that. But for people like myself that love playing this card game, it was a family favorite when I was growing up, and in fact even now when I get together with my parents, we often still play a few games of cribbage. Yeah, so for me, it brings back some fond memories. And I, it's probably one of my favorite card games, just on the basis of how often I've played it, really. So we're going to try and see if we can get to 61 points, either me or the computer. Okay, so we're up to 20 now, so I'm going to go with my Jack of Hearts there. But yes, I think, to be honest with you, the only sort of couple of criticisms of this game I would make is that that white text on the green background doesn't quite work for me. I don't know about you, but for me, that it's a little bit faint. I think it would have been better if the text was just black on green. I like the green. It's like a sort of card table beige. So I'm certainly down with that. But I do think that the white text on top of it doesn't quite work. But I mean, honestly, that's a fairly minor criticism. I think the only other thing I would say is it would have been nice if the game could have obviously played up to 120 run one rather than 61, or indeed given you the option. I think the option would have been nice. But yeah, obviously it's kind of hard coded to just 61 points. And I think finally, as you can tell, I mean, there's no sound, apart from those slightly irritating beeps when it wants to prompt you to do something. Oh, I say that's a very difficult hand to discard anything from, because all by itself, it's a very healthy hand there. Um, okay, well, I can either take off the 10 or take off the king. So I think what I'll do is I will take off. Let's take off the 10, and hopefully we don't end up regretting that. Let's see what turns up. Okay, well, the 8 doesn't do anything for us. Yeah, so as I was saying, the lack of sound is, it's a little bit disheartening. It would have been nice if, at the very least, if the prompt for you to play your hand wasn't just the same beep as you get when you turn a BBC Micro on. I mean, I'm pretty certain it's exactly the same system beep that you get when you turn on the computer. But yes, I mean, it would have been nice if it was maybe just a slightly more gentle sound prompt. Might be too much to expect it to have some sound in terms of music. I think we might be asking too much. And actually, in a game of cards, you don't necessarily want to have some irritating jingle going on in the background, because it's slightly distracting. Um, I actually wouldn't hold it against the edition for not allowing you to play with a friend, because honestly, I don't really see much benefit of having a two-player card game on a computer. I mean, really, you could just play with a pack of cards. Ah, there you go. And right on schedule, I've won the game. So well done me. I hope you've enjoyed watching that sort of playthrough of Cribbage. If nothing else, I hope it's sort of given you a flavour of what the rules are and how to play the game. So even if you don't fancy digging this one out to play on your emulator or on your BBC Micro, you could always crack open a set of playing cards and have a game with one, two, or three friends. Anyway, that's it for Cribbage from Superior Software 1983. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope you'll join me again for the next video in the series. Until then, goodbye.